back to For the Record on Law&Crime. I'm Stacey Delicat, live in Fairfax, Virginia, outside the courthouse where deliberations are underway in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation trial. I am joined by Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy, who has been here every step of the way. And we are in a little bit of a holding pattern right now because the jury has taken a short lunch break. We expect them to resume deliberations in just a little while, but so far they have deliberated for just over 5 hours since first getting the case on Friday. We know they have an extensive list of jury instructions they have to go through, an extensive list of questions they need to answer and debate, and so we're not sure when we could hear something from them. So far, we haven't had any jury questions. We've seen some of the attorneys coming and going. We've seen some of Johnny Depp's security come and go. And we've seen a lot of media outside waiting. Everyone is just waiting right now for word. And so while we wait for more developments here on the ground and before we take some more of the great viewer questions that have been coming in here, we want to replay some of Johnny Depp on the stand. Earlier during this show, we played some of Amber Heard testifying, but now we're going to hear a little bit from Johnny Depp, both under direct and cross-examination. Depp talked about how important it is to get his truth out, that's the point of this trial, that after 6 years, he's been waiting to get the truth out. Let's listen to some of that now.
No human being is perfect, certainly not. None of us. But I have never in my life committed sexual battery, physical abuse, all these outlandish, outrageous stories of me committing these things and living with it for 6 years and waiting to be able to bring the truth out. So this is not easy for any of us. I know that. But no matter what happens, I did get here, and I did tell the truth, and I have spoken up for what I've been carrying on my back reluctantly for 6 years.
You testified, and I wrote it down before lunch. You said, when Ms. Myers asked you something about, how does it feel to make you, or how does it feel to be here? You said, I've been living with it for 6 years and waiting to be able to get the truth out. You remember saying that?
Yes. You
also said, I've spoken up for what I've been carrying on my back. Something to that effect. You remember saying that?
Yes.
And you've claimed several times in this proceeding, Mr. Depp, that this trial is your first chance to tell your story, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
But that's just not true, is it, Mr. Depp? That's not true.
No, for me it is true.
Okay, well, here's the thing. The fact is, Mr. Depp, when Dan Wooten wrote an article that was published in The Sun calling you a wife beater, you brought a lawsuit against The Sun in June of 2018, correct?
Yes, I brought a
And that was 6 months before Ms. Heard ever wrote her op-ed, correct?
I don't know.
And in the summer of 2020, there was a several-week trial in London against The Sun, correct?
Ms. Heard was not a party to that trial, was she?
Not my question, Mr. Depp. In the article that The Sun wrote that you sued over, you sued for Mr. Wooten calling you a wife beater, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained. Next question.
And in the trial that you subsequently brought, you called a lot of witnesses, right?
I don't know what a lot is. I don't know.
Many people testified on both sides of the trial, correct?
Yes, many people.
And many exhibits were introduced, correct?
Like a trial, yes.
And you, just like in this trial, you were on the stand for several days in that trial, correct?
Yes, sir, I was.
And That trial involved the same factual issues that you are litigating here, which is whether
Objection
you committed
calls
domestic
for
abuse
illegal.
against Amber Heard.
Sustain the objection. Next question.
You brought that case against the Sun because you were angry at the Sun for calling you a wife beater, correct?
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good reason.
And you went through that trial in London, correct?
I did indeed, yes.
Mr. Depp, you've already had a chance to tell your story, haven't you?
No, there
Objection
were
has to answer.
great limitations in the UK trial.
All right, so that was one of Amber Heard's attorneys, Ben Rottenberg, questioning Johnny Depp on the stand, and he brought up that case in the UK when Johnny Depp sued a publication, the Daily Mail, wasn't it? Or for,
no, it was The Sun.
The Sun, thank you. So interchangeable, for saying that he was a wife beater in one of their headlines, and he lost that case. So joining us this hour, by the way, we still have our very own Linda Kenny-Bodden with us, live from our studio in New York. We have Law&Crime legal analyst Dina Dahl, and we have Dave Ehrenberg, a state attorney, joining us right now. So Dave, let me bring you into this, and do you think Rottenberg scored some points there by bringing up that case that Depp lost in the UK?
Good to be with you today. I don't think he won any points because none of the jurors ever saw Depp testify. You know why? Because it wasn't televised, and that's the big difference. So when they say that you already had your chance to tell your story to the world, that's really not true because the world never saw him on the stand. They only read about it in publications. And if you're in the United States, they didn't follow that trial as much as they did in Great Britain. So no, I think the jurors are probably looking at the lawyer saying, I don't remember him getting a chance to tell his story because he didn't. He didn't until now.
Can I add to that just briefly?
Please.
So also, we need to keep in mind that these are two different justice or legal systems, I should say. The way that the trial, and I know this because I interviewed Nick Wallace, a UK reporter who's here, and he covered the UK trial, and he told me it was much different the way that this went down. Apparently, the Sun's lawyer, Sasha Wass, I think was the name, started every witness, and it's almost like you start with cross-examination. There is no direct examination. So it's with this, the Sun's attorney basically, going into cross to almost defend themselves. And so there was a lot of stuff that didn't come into the UK trial. Plus, it was a judge over there, and you're talking about suing a publication who had a source,
right.
And the source was Amber Heard, not suing the source of the information. And if you're talking about press protections, it's going to be much different. Also, it wasn't televised, and Judge Askarati, I believe, in one of her rulings, said the UK trial, she didn't think it was a fair trial.
Interesting. Well, that's great to add for context. So thank you, Anjanette. We're going to switch gears now and go to some of the viewer questions because so many have been coming in on our various platforms. And I'm going to start by one from Northern Farm Girl from YouTube, who said, what in this case should the jury not pay too much attention to? For example, the alleged fecal matter funk on the bed. Linda, let me go to you. Is that something the jury should really be paying much attention to at this point of the game?
Well, let me just start off with saying hello, Dave Ehrenberg. Nice to see you, state's attorney in Palm Beach. You were here in the studio. Boy, you get around, sir. You're great. And Stacey, going back to your regular question, yes, he was just my little vector in the studio last week. He was absolutely great then, as he is now, as he is always. But that's an important consideration. It's not just a little matter because, again, I look at this as juries would do for their own personal experience. Now, I can't remember a time, Michael, maybe you can correct me. Did you ever leave fecal material in my bed on my pillow? No, of course he didn't. And so the jury doesn't like that. They look at their own experience, all right? So it is an important thing. And then she later admitted to it. She said it was a joke. But given their relationship, it doesn't sound like much of a joke. So the jury will look at everything, but they'll pay more attention to what they have in their own personal experience. Plus, they'll say, was she lying about it? And that's how they will put the evidence into a funnel and come out with the verdict at the end.
But it's not just that she said it was a joke. Then she came back in the trial and she said, no, it was the dog. So it's been a little bit back and forth and changing the story. But let me go to another part of this question. Is there anything that the jury doesn't need to pay that much attention to that came up in this trial? I mean, Dina, can you think of anything?
No, I mean, essentially all the evidence that came in at trial was already determined to be relevant. Any evidence that, I bet both parties, before trial, they do these pretrial motions and they decide what evidence comes in. The judge makes the determining factor. And we know there was a lot more evidence that just didn't come in because because it wasn't relevant enough or it was too prejudicial. So the idea is that the evidence that came in only came in because it did speak to this essential issue of whether or not the statements defamed him. So the jury cannot decide to not pay attention really to any of the facts that came in because they're all supposed to be important in the issue.
Okay, let's go to another question. This one's from Melanie Rose from Facebook, and she said, could Amber be found with perjury, I guess guilty of perjury, if she's found guilty for lying, or could she face any perjury charges perhaps? Dave Ehrenberg, do you want to take that one?
Yes, because that's something we prosecute. We prosecute perjury. It is a crime, but it is extremely unlikely for anyone to be prosecuted after the fact in this case because we're talking about a civil matter, and to prove perjury, you have to prove that they knowingly lied and it was material, and prosecutors have so much more bigger fish to fry. They've got other cases to deal with. They've got gun crimes, and I don't think they're going to waste their time prosecuting Amber Heard for fibbing on the stand. Plus, it's not clear that if she made some misleading comments, that it was an intentional lie. So these cases of perjury are very tough to prosecute, and it would be a waste of prosecutors' time. I think the justice in this case will be when the jury of 7 individuals reach their verdict pretty soon.
Okay. Melanie had another good question, and she said, if all of this started with the Waldman statements, why isn't Amber suing him alongside with Johnny? Remember, Adam Waldman is Johnny Depp's attorney, who Amber alleges was acting as his agent on his behalf when she says he orchestrated a smear campaign against her by calling her allegations a giant hoax. Linda, why isn't Waldman named in this suit alongside Johnny Depp?
Well, there's a number of reasons. One, she doesn't want another attorney there. 2, she wants to focus it only on Johnny Depp. 3, we don't know if there was a confidential settlement of any sort with his malpractice policy. I send a letter, we get a settlement, we get an agreement, and it's settled quietly, just as a nuisance suit. So we don't know any of the background. But the last thing she wanted was another attorney. She wanted to make sure, as a strategic decision, it was only Johnny Depp that jury looked at.
Okay. Well, we are going to take another quick break, but we're going to be back in just a minute with much more and many more of your questions live here from Fairfax, Virginia. This is Law&Crime.